Remember that time when Adolf Hitler planned to kidnap or even assassinate the Pope? It's a riveting story, worthy of Dan Brown or Jack Higgins, but is it true? Or was it a clever invention to polish tarnished reputations after the war? This is the story of the so-called Nazi plot to seize the Vatican, and why historians still argue about what really happened to this day. To understand this story, we need to go back to the 1920s. For centuries, the Vatican as the seat of St. Peter's Vicar held immense power and directly ruled over several Italian territories known as the Papal States. But with Italian unification in the 1860s, papal power entered a period of terminal decline. Then, in 1929, Pope Pius XI signed the Lateran Treaty with Benito Mussolini. The deal gave the Vatican independence and compensation for the loss of its papal states in return for recognition of Mussolini's fascist regime. Pius XI had reservations, but saw it as a way to secure the Church's autonomy. His successor, Pope Pius XII, had served as the Vatican's ambassador to Germany and hoped to maintain world peace in the run-up to the Second World War. But neutrality wasn't easy in the face of fascism's moral depravity. Racial laws introduced in Italy in 1938 forbade the marriage of Jews and non-Jews, including Catholics, violating the right of the Holy See as the sole authority on Catholic matrimony. Italy entered World War II in 1940 as a member of the Axis, with Mussolini envisioning a new Roman Empire. But the tide of war steadily turned against him, and by 1943 Allied forces had invaded Sicily. Mussolini was soon deposed and his government signed an armistice with the Allies. In response, Germany swiftly invaded and occupied much of northern and central Italy, including Rome. Suddenly, the Pope found himself surrounded not by Italian fascists, but by hostile German forces. For the Vatican, neutrality was now more dangerous and more difficult than ever. The city-state became a precarious island of sovereignty in a capital swarming with SS troops, informants, and deportations. The plot first appeared in Allied reports in 1944 that Hitler had ordered SS troops to enter the neutral Vatican City, kidnap Pope Pius XII, and possibly to loot the Vatican archives of its treasures. The story goes that Hitler feared the Pope would become a figurehead of Italian resistance, or might fall into the hands of the Allies should the city be taken. According to Karl Wolff, a high-ranking SS officer, he personally defied Hitler's orders and protected the Pope. Wolff later claimed that he secretly warned the Vatican and stalled the plan until Germany's surrender. His testimony, published 7 years after his death in 1984 in the Italian media, made headlines. It would not be the first time that he had disobeyed orders. In 1945, several days before the official surrender of the Third Reich, Wolff called on the Axis forces in northern Italy to lay down their arms to the Allies, ending hostilities early and at the same time helping him to evade the Nuremberg trials on account of the grateful Allies. More information about the plot did come to light at the Nuremberg trials on account of German General Erwin von Lachausen. But he wasn't on trial, he was testifying. Born in Austria, von Lachausen worked in counterintelligence when his country was annexed by Germany in 1938, and he had to work for the German secret service, the Abwehr. An anti-Nazi from the start, von Lachausen helped supply a bomb intended to assassinate the Führer, though it failed to detonate. While the other plotters in the Abwehr were executed, von Lachausen had been sent to the Eastern Front and escaped notice, becoming one of the highest-ranking witnesses at the Nuremberg trials when he voluntarily testified against Hermann Göring. There, von Lachausen testified that Hitler had ordered the Reich Security Main Office to plan the kidnapping or even assassination of Pope Pius XII and King Victor Emmanuel III of Italy. but Lahausen claimed that Admiral Wilhelm Canaris, head of German military intelligence and another key figure in the anti-Hitler resistance, secretly warned the Italians already in July 1943. The plan was nevertheless abandoned, at least officially. Decades later, Rudolf Rahn, the former German ambassador to Mussolini's puppet state, the Italian Social Republic, admitted the plot had existed too, but said all evidence had been destroyed or lost. So, did Hitler really order the Pope's kidnapping? The truth is rather murky. No direct written orders have ever been found suggesting this. The plan is known mostly through Wolf's own post-war statements, made during interviews and at his trial. Yes, trial. While he evaded Nuremberg, he was arrested by West German authorities in 1964 and sentenced to 17 years imprisonment for the deportation of some 300,000 Jews to Treblinka death camp, where they were murdered. These crimes had come to light as a result of the capture and extradition of Nazi mass murderer Adolf Eichmann, sent to Israel 2 years earlier. As a result, Wolf would spend the next 7 years in prison until being released following a heart attack in 1971. Some historians, like Istvan Dijk, argue that the kidnapping plot was likely invented, or at the very least exaggerated, to make Wolf look like a good Nazi. A man who, while certainly guilty, supposedly saved the Pope and therefore deserved leniency. But why didn't the Vatican confirm or deny the story? Well, the role of Pope Pius XII and the Catholic Church in general during the Second World War was far from controversial. Critics accused him of not doing enough to oppose the Holocaust, with several prominent Nazi mass murderers like Eichmann being able to escape to South America through rat lines, often organised by high-ranking members of the Church. However, the Pope's various statements and messages throughout the conflict show his aversion both to war in general and the anti-Semitic rhetoric of the Nazis. In 1939 he wrote, "The blood of countless human beings, even non-combatants, raises a piteous dirge over a nation such as our dear Poland." And in 1942 openly criticised the Holocaust when the Nazis were at the height of their power. Mankind owes that vow to the hundreds of thousands of persons who, without any fault on their part, sometimes only because of their nationality or race, have been consigned to death or slow extermination. For many, it didn't go far enough, though the Pope himself wrote he felt as if he were on a tightrope, not daring to say too much lest he be silenced entirely, but still speaking out to inspire and give hope to others. In any case, statements like those made him a clear target for the repressive Nazi authorities. The Vatican, famously secretive, never publicly addressed the plot. Some believe the Pope was warned and even drafted a resignation letter in case he were captured, but this too remains unproven. What is known is that Nazi forces never stormed the Vatican, and when Allied troops liberated Rome in 1944, the Pope remained unharmed. Still, the whole truth proves murky. Cambridge historian Owen Chadwick, after studying British war archives, argued that British intelligence actively pushed the story as wartime propaganda. The political warfare executive even faked German radio broadcasts, claiming the Pope would be imprisoned in Liechtenstein Castle to spread fear and rally Catholic support against the Nazis. According to the British ambassador to the Vatican, Sir Darcy Osborne, the Vatican's neutrality served a very useful purpose. So long as the Pope remained untouched, Allied forces avoided bombing German military sites near the Vatican. Even Hitler's own ambassador, Ernst von Weizsäcker, ensured German troops would never violate Vatican territory. Historians like David Alvarez and the Jesuit priest Robert Graham, both of whom are experts on the Vatican's wartime records, later concluded that the evidence for a genuine kidnap plot is, in their words, at best mixed. But as they also noted, if the plot were a fabrication, it was a very effective one, because Allied propagandists didn't hesitate to spread it. The Nazi kidnapping plot remains a powerful what-if story, part truth, part myth, and part propaganda. It says something about post-war memory, how men like Karl Wolf reinvented themselves to escape justice, and how even the Vatican's silence was interpreted as part of a secret drama beneath the surface. Whether or not the order came from Hitler, the story endures because it touches on power and faith and the question of how the faithful can or should act against the powerful. So was there really a plot to kidnap the Pope, or was it a clever fiction to salvage a reputation? History doesn't always give us clear answers, but it does leave us with fascinating questions. If you enjoyed this video, why not take a look at my other videos on World War II, like what the Catholic nations of Ireland and Spain did, even though they were neutral? Or how about how most people have been showing the Vatican City's flag wrong? Well, if you're interested, take a look, and otherwise I will see you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching. I have been Hilbert, and this has been The History.